My fiancée canceled our wedding to test my commitment. Her friend said if I didn't chase, I wasn't ready for marriage. I didn't beg, just canceled everything and walked away. When the truth came out, their whole circle collapsed, and she ended up jobless and alone. Hey Reddit, my ex-fiancée and her friend group tried to run a loyalty test on me 3 weeks before our wedding. I didn't chase, they called it failure, and everything blew up. Before I get into the mess, let me start from the beginning. I'm Noah, 32, born and raised in Washington, living in Seattle for the past decade. I work as a security engineer at a fintech company, mostly quiet office hours, predictable schedules, and a lot of problem solving that nobody notices unless it breaks. I'm the fix things, plan ahead, don't make a scene type. My family is small, steady, loud only during holidays. Nothing wild, pretty normal. Camille was the opposite of normal in the best way. She's 29, a brand partnerships lead for a lifestyle company, one of those jobs where your whole personality becomes part of your work. She had this high energy presence and cared about making life look curated and intentional. I never minded that. It made our days feel brighter. She liked spotlight moments. I liked building the structure behind them. We met at a mutual friend's birthday thing at Gasworks Park. She talked fast. I listened and nodded a lot. Somehow that worked. A few dates turned into months, months into years. By the time we hit year 3, we were synced up without trying. Our rituals were small but solid. Every Sunday we'd walk to the same bakery for coffee and a pastry to split. We had a shared gym membership where she pushed the pace and I stuck to routine circuits. On Tuesdays, she did her content nights, which basically meant rearranging furniture and lighting to film sponsored stuff, while I fixed cords or held reflectors if she asked. I had my own quirks too, my trip planning spreadsheets, the color-coded tabs for wedding costs, the packing checklists that she teased me about but still used. We balanced each other out. She brought excitement. I brought structure. Whenever friends joked about us being total opposites, she'd laugh and say, "He keeps me grounded." And I'd say, "She keeps things moving." It felt honest. It felt stable. Her friend group, though, that was another story. They called themselves the Coven, half joking, half serious. 5 other women who had weekly meetups, group chats that never stopped buzzing, and an annual girls' reset trip that revolved around spa photos and matching outfits. Sienna was the leader. Charismatic, twice divorced, always announcing she was a relationship strategist, like she'd invented the concept. She could make anything sound like wisdom if she said it with enough confidence. Marla was married, but you wouldn't know it from the way she dragged her husband online for every minor inconvenience. Tess had a long-term boyfriend, who she treated like another accessory to her aesthetic. Rory loudly hated the idea of marriage, and regularly claimed men were ongoing projects. June was a soft life influencer, who genuinely believed a partner's top priority should be paying for comfort. I always found them dramatic. Not mean, just everything was a performance. They spoke like they were narrating a show, hyping each other up in ways that never felt real to me. But Camille seemed happy with them, and I wasn't the jealous type or the kind of guy to tell someone who they could be close with. So I did what I always did. I nodded, stayed polite, and kept my distance. Meanwhile, our life moved forward. After 3 years together, I proposed during a hike up Rattlesnake Ledge. Simple moment, clear sky, nothing staged. She cried, said yes, and immediately started imagining mood boards and color palettes. I started mapping budgets and timelines. A year later, we were deep in wedding prep. Our apartment had lists taped to the fridge, vendor receipts in folders, sample decorations spread across the dining table. Camille had countdown reminders on her phone. I had a spreadsheet that could probably run an entire event on its own. Everything was lined up. Venue booked. Photographer reserved. Guest list locked. It finally felt like the finish line was close. Then came the night that split everything in half. 3 Saturdays before the wedding, she came home from COVID night, sat on the edge of our couch, and said, "I think we need to pause everything." Looking back, the cracks didn't show up suddenly. They came in quiet, steady shifts a few months before everything fell apart. Nothing big enough to call out on its own, but each one changed the tone of things just a little. It started when the Coven got more involved in our wedding planning. At first, it was just them giving Camille suggestions about decor or dresses, which I expected. But then Sienna began chiming in on our relationship itself. One evening, Camille told me Sienna had asked her if I was emotionally aggressive enough, like she was evaluating me for a competition. I asked Camille what that meant, and she shrugged, saying Sienna just worried I wasn't fiery. I've never been fiery a day in my life, so I didn't know what to do with that. A week later, June told Camille she should never marry a man who wouldn't fall apart if she left. Camille repeated it to me like it was advice worth thinking about. She said it while tying her shoes before we headed to the gym, like it was casual. I just blinked, not sure how to respond without sounding defensive. I let it go. Rory was the one who turned it into a joke. She loved saying stuff like, better test the foundation before signing forever. They'd all laugh, and Camille would laugh too, but the way she glanced at me made the back of my neck tighten. I didn't want to make something out of nothing, so I acted normal. Then came the bachelor and bachelorette planning. My friends kept things simple. Day hike, then dinner, nothing wild. They asked me what I wanted and stuck to it. Meanwhile, Camille's side turned into a production. I wasn't included in the planning talk at all. She said it was a surprise, but her tone made it sound more like a performance. Every time I asked a basic question like where they were staying, she said, "Don't worry about it," and changed the subject. The costs kept creeping higher. She would mention new totals she needed me to cover, but kept the actual plans vague. The secrecy felt strange, but again, I let it go. I figured it was just how they operated. Around that time, Camille started joking about wanting one last single-era summer. She said it with a smile, usually while picking outfits or talking to her group chat. "This is my last summer to be selfish," she'd say. I'd be at the dining table going through vendor confirmations, hearing her say it on the phone like I wasn't right there. I didn't fight it, but it stuck with me. The secrecy got worse too. Her phone used to be unlocked, screen up on the table. Then suddenly it was always face down, with a new passcode she didn't mention. Every now and then, if a voice note was playing, she'd leave it unlocked on speaker and forget about it. She'd say she had work hangs, but they always lined up with nights I knew the coven met up. If I asked about it, she'd say, "Why are you being weird?" which made me drop it. One night, I accidentally overheard her group chat voice notes while she was in the shower. She'd left the phone unlocked and playing on speaker on the bathroom counter. Her phone lit up and her speaker was loud. I heard her say, "Well, at least he cried when she threatened to leave." I didn't know who she meant, but hearing her compare me to other fiancés hit strange. I didn't confront her. I told myself it wasn't worth a fight while wedding stress was already high. Then came the Adrian mentions. She slipped him into conversations like he was an old co-worker, or someone she barely remembered, but she brought him up more than once. "Adrian's been checking on me lately," she said while we were folding laundry. Another time, "He went through marriage pressure too, so he gets it." Always delivered casually, but never random. She picked moments when we were both stressed. Guest list arguments, scheduling conflicts, stuff like that. I could tell she was watching my face for a reaction. I stayed calm. "Glad you have someone to talk to," I said each time. Nothing else. It bothered me, sure, but I wasn't going to play jealousy games. One of the clearest moments something was off happened during a quiet night at home. I was at the dining table working through seating charts and checking which guests still hadn't RSVP'd. Camille was scrolling TikTok beside me, sound on low. Every few seconds, I'd hear snippets of some feminine energy coach preaching relationship rules. Make him earn your stability. Withdrawal creates desire. Don't marry a man until he proves he'll fight for you. I teased lightly. "You know half these coaches are 23 and living with roommates, right?" Expecting her to laugh. Instead, she snapped, "You don't get it. These women are trying to protect me." Then she went back to scrolling. I didn't push it. I just kept working on the seating chart until it was done. The last red flag hit on the day we picked up our marriage license paperwork. We'd spent the morning signing forms and confirming documents. The kind of errands that feel important, even though they're boring. Afterwards, we met Sienna and two others for lunch because they happened to be nearby, which I didn't believe for a second. When we finished eating, Sienna gave Camille a long hug, longer than usual. She held her shoulders, looked her straight in the eyes, and said, "Remember what we talked about. Don't marry potential. Make him prove it." Camille laughed it off, but she didn't correct her. That was the part that hit me the most. Not the comment. Sienna always had something to say, but the silence that followed. 3 weeks before the wedding, everything on our checklist was finally finished. We had just walked through the venue one last time. The coordinator showed us where the tables would go, the lighting plan, the timing for the ceremony. Camille took photos from every angle. I confirmed vendor arrival windows on my phone. It felt like the calm before a big life shift, the good kind. My suit fitting was done earlier that week. It fit perfectly. No alterations needed. Camille joked that I was the most low-maintenance groom alive. The guest list was locked. We had 200 people coming, and every RSVP was neatly tracked in my spreadsheet. Nothing left but waiting for the day to arrive. That Saturday, Camille went to Coven night. She left with a quick kiss and said they were just catching up and finalizing some bachelorette trip details. She looked normal walking out the door. No tension, no hints. I spent the time reorganizing our wedding folders and setting aside payments we still owed. She came home around 10. I could tell something was wrong the second she stepped inside. She didn't take off her jacket. She didn't set her phone on the counter like usual. She just walked to the couch and sat down slowly, like she needed to aim before she spoke. "Noah," she said, "I think we need to pause everything." Those words didn't even make sense at first. Pause what? I sat across from her and asked what she meant. She looked at her hands, then at me. "I love you," she said, "but I'm not sure I'm ready. I need air. I need to remember who I am." My brain went blank. I didn't yell or demand anything. I just stared at her, waiting for the rest. She kept going. "I'm staying with Sienna for a while, just to get clarity. It's not you. I need space." The script-like quality of it stood out immediately, like she had practiced the lines. I asked, "What changed?" She shrugged in a way that meant nothing. "I've been feeling this for a while," she said. "I didn't want to burden you with it. I need to figure out if I'm making the right decision about my life." I asked for specifics. What exactly was she unsure about? She kept giving vague answers about alignment and personal clarity. It sounded like someone else's vocabulary. I asked her point blank if this was about another guy. She shook her head quickly. "No, absolutely not. This is about me." There was no anger in her voice, just something rehearsed. She told me she'd already packed a bag and that Sienna was expecting her. Then she stood, kissed the top of my head like I was a kid, and said, "Please trust I'm doing what I need for both of us." She left our apartment like she was going out for groceries, not like she was canceling a wedding. The next morning I had to call my parents. My mom kept asking me if I was sure I heard her right. My dad kept saying, 3 weeks? 3 weeks? Like the number was personally offensive. My younger brother didn't say much, just offered to come over if I needed help. I called my best man. He let out a long breath and asked if I wanted him to tell the rest of the groomsmen. I told him yes. Hearing myself say it felt surreal. Within the first week, I started canceling everything. The venue said the deposit was non-refundable. The florist had already ordered everything. The photographer had a cancellation clause. The caterer charged a percentage. It added up fast. I kept my voice steady on every call. Camille's parents called that afternoon. They were furious, mostly at her, but some irritation leaked toward me, like I should have seen it coming. Her mom cried and kept saying she was embarrassed. Her dad apologized for the wasted money, but I could tell his pride was bruised. That first week felt like living inside a muted room. I went to work, came home, and sat on the couch until it got dark. I'd end up staring at the ceiling around 3 a.m. I unable to get my mind to follow a straight line. I wasn't miserable exactly, just stunned. By day 5, I realized I needed to protect myself. Not emotionally, practically. I removed Camille from our shared utilities so I wouldn't be stuck paying for 2 people. I asked the bank to place temporary holds and withdrawal restrictions on our joint savings until we could divide the funds. I updated my emergency contact at work to my brother. None of it felt petty. It felt like cleaning up after a storm so the house didn't rot. Camille didn't call, didn't text, not even a, "How are you?" The silence was loud, but I got used to it faster than I expected. By the second week of silence, I was budgeting. And for the first time, I saw clearly. If she never came back, I'd be fine. Almost a month after she walked out, I came home from work and found Camille sitting on the hallway floor outside my apartment door. By then, the day we were supposed to get married had already come and gone. Her knees were pulled up, makeup streaked, eyes swollen like she'd been crying for hours. She stood as soon as I reached her. "Noah, please, can we talk?" Her voice cracked on the last word. I unlocked the door and stepped aside. She followed me in like someone afraid I'd close it on her. She didn't sit. She paced once, then blurted, "I made a mistake. I want to fix everything. We can reschedule the wedding, or we can elope. Whatever you want." It was the first time she'd said anything to me since she left. I stayed standing because sitting felt too much like letting the moment soften. "Why now?" I asked. "You wanted space. What changed?" She wiped her face with her sleeve. "I thought I needed time, but being away from you made me realize I was wrong. I love you. I want our life back." Her tone felt rehearsed again. Not stiff, just too tidy. I didn't accept that answer. "Tell me the real reason you left." Not the vague version. The truth. Camille froze. Her shoulders rose, then dropped. She sat on the edge of the couch, hands shaking slightly. "It wasn't supposed to go like this," she whispered. "It was a test." I didn't respond. I just waited. She took a long breath. "Sienna, and the others. They said I needed to make sure you were committed. That before I married you, I should see how far you'd go for me." I felt something go cold in my chest. "What does that mean?" It was a Commitment stress test. She said the phrase like she hated hearing it out loud. They had this plan. If I left temporarily, you would show how much you wanted us. They had checkpoints. She looked down at her hands. Day 1, I leave. Day 3, you're supposed to beg for me to come back. Day 7, a gesture, flowers or something big. Day 10, a public message about fighting for us. Day 14, you tell me you'd elope if that's what it takes. I stared at her. She kept talking like she needed to empty everything before she lost her nerve. Sienna told me if he stays calm, he's not husband material. She said that real partners fight. They don't just let you walk away. She said you needed to prove it. I let the silence stretch long enough that she had to look at me. And Adrian? I asked. She winced. They told me bringing him up would activate you, trigger some competition feeling. They said if you didn't react at all, it meant you weren't invested. So you were trying to get a rise out of me. She nodded, eyes full of guilt. I didn't want to. They said it was harmless. Just part of the test. I wasn't angry yet, mostly stunned. And the coven tracked this how? Camille swallowed. We have mutual friends. They were updating the group. Sienna kept asking if you'd shown up anywhere, if you were posting, if you'd sent anything to my parents. They waited for your reactions. Every checkpoint. She covered her face with her hands. None of it happened. You didn't beg. You didn't send anything. You didn't chase. They kept telling me to wait one more day, then another, and then another. I finally sat down, not next to her. Across. You were watching to see how desperate I'd get. No, she said quickly, then deflated. Yes, I guess. But I thought it would show something meaningful. I didn't realize how it sounded until nothing happened. I didn't raise my voice. I gave you exactly what you asked for. You told me you needed space, so I gave you space. Apparently that meant I failed? She reached out a little, like she expected me to take her hand. I didn't. She let her arm drop. Noah, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have listened to them. I shouldn't have done any of it. I just want to fix this. Please. We can start over. Everyone makes mistakes. I shook my head slowly. You didn't test my commitment. You tested my tolerance for disrespect. She broke then, crying openly, apologizing between breaths, saying she regretted everything, saying she'd cut off the coven, saying she was blinded by stress. I love you, she said again. We can recover from this. We're meant to be together. No, I said. One word. Steady. I'm not doing this. I'm not marrying someone who would put me through that. She stood up fast, like she couldn't process the answer. Can you just think about it? Not decide right now? We can go to counseling or take a break or... No, I repeated. I'm done. She cried harder and slid down onto the carpet, like her legs gave out. For almost an hour, she alternated between begging and making promises she couldn't guarantee. When begging didn't work, she tried bargaining. We'll elope, she said again. Just you and me. I stayed calm. Camille, you need to leave. She shook her head instantly. I'm not leaving without a real conversation. This is the real conversation, I said. If you don't go, I'll call security. It took another 20 minutes of back and forth before she stood up, grabbed her bag, and walked to the door. She paused before opening it. This isn't over, she whispered. Sienna says people come around once they realize what they lost. She left without looking back. Around midnight, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Just one message. You're making a mistake. Sienna says you'll come around. I blocked it instantly. The next morning, from her regular number, Camille sent a long text recapping what she had told me. She spelled out the commitment stress test and listed each checkpoint in writing. I saved it. Blocking Camille's burner number didn't slow her down. It only shifted the form her messages took. Within 2 days, she started what I now think of as Wave 1, the love bombing phase. It began with texts from unknown numbers, then emails, then voice notes. I stayed silent. Next were the deliveries at my office. A receptionist forwarded a bouquet to my desk with a card that said, I still choose you every day. After that first bouquet, I asked reception to refuse any future deliveries and had building security noted. That same afternoon, a package showed up outside my apartment door. Inside were photos from our engagement trip, tied with ribbon, plus a note that said, we were supposed to be forever. I boxed everything and disposed of it. I wasn't keeping anything that tied me to whatever this had become. But Camille didn't stop. She escalated. That's when Wave 2 began. The ambush phase. The first time, she waited outside my apartment building. I walked out to head to work and found her standing near the entrance in a sweatshirt and leggings, looking cold and restless. We need to talk, she said. You can't keep shutting me out. I already told you no, I replied. Please go home. She reached for my arm. I stepped back and kept walking. Per our building's policy to remove non-residents at a resident's request, security noticed and escorted her off the property a few minutes later. After that, she started popping up unannounced until she finally showed up at my parents' house. The moment that pushed things from uncomfortable to concerning happened at my parents' house. They lived 30 minutes outside the city, and Camille showed up unannounced one afternoon, asking to speak with them. My mom called me right after it happened. She told me Camille had asked if they could help talk sense into me. My mom told her firmly, "No, this is between you and Noah." My dad came to the door too and told her she needed to leave immediately. She cried, apologized to them, then left. After that, she returned to digital tactics. Wave 3. The victim posts. Camille started posting vague quotes about how people abandon you when you're imperfect, and real love forgives. Her captions mentioned doing the work and owning your mistakes, but the subtext was obvious. The coven filled her comments with encouragement. Don't give up, babe. Fight for your love. For your men don't understand emotional pressure. I ignored all of it. Still, seeing my name implied in those posts wasn't pleasant. Around this time, something shifted within the coven. I didn't see the drama directly, but one night I got a message on LinkedIn. Yes, LinkedIn from Tess. Her message read, "I'm reaching out privately." I told her this was a horrible idea. Sienna pushed everything. "I'm sorry it got this out of hand." I typed back, "Thanks for letting me know. I'm handling things on my end. Nothing more." I wasn't joining their internal problems. I didn't want to be part of their group fallout. While all this chaos spiraled around me, my own life quietly stabilized. I wasn't dating. I wasn't looking. I just focused on rebuilding the routines that had taken a hit. I started training consistently again. Morning workouts before work. Weekend runs along the waterfront. I slept better after weeks of restless nights. At work, a big security review I'd led finished successfully, and management gave me a role upgrade. Basically, a small promotion. It wasn't something I celebrated loudly, but it felt good to accomplish something clean and independent of the mess Camille had dragged me into. I kept to myself and slowly felt my baseline return. I didn't miss her. I missed the version of life I thought we had, but not her. Not the real her that had shown up at the end. Then, Camille found a new angle. One Friday night, I went out with a coworker friend. Just a simple dinner and walking around the city. It was nothing romantic. I wasn't even thinking about relationships. We ran into two people from the company, talked for a bit, then went home separately. The next afternoon, my phone lit up with a message from another unknown number. I didn't open it immediately. When I finally did, it was a wall of text from Camille. "So you replaced me already? You never loved me. I can't believe you moved on while I'm here trying everything to fix us." I stared at the message for a few seconds. I didn't respond. Instead, I blocked that number too. Whatever she thought she saw, or whatever someone told her, turned into her next obsession. And the spiral hadn't even hit its worst point yet. The turning point came when Camille posted another vague message online. Something about being abandoned after one mistake with a sad emoji. The comments were all sympathy. A few people hinted that I'd given up too easily. Someone even wrote, "Men don't understand emotional effort." I wasn't tagged, but everyone knew who she meant. I'd stayed quiet until then, because I didn't want to drag our private mess into the world. But at that point, letting her rewrite the story meant letting her drag my name through mud she created. So I finally made my own post. I wrote it calmly, the same way I'd write a report at work. No insults, no dramatics, just the sequence of events. I explained that she had called off the wedding 3 weeks before the date as part of a commitment test suggested by her friend group. I explained how the test worked. She leaves, waits for me to break down and chase her, and grades my reaction like it's a contest. I wrote that she later admitted to all of it. I included screenshots of her messages that showed her explaining the checkpoints and acknowledging Sienna's role. I blurred names except hers and mine. Then I ended it with one line. "I'm not sharing this to hurt her. I'm sharing it because the version being told about me isn't true." I hit post, closed the app, left it alone. Within an hour, my phone started buzzing. Mutual friends shared it. Old coworkers reached out. People commented things like, "What kind of test is that?" And "This is manipulation, not love." A few people who'd met Camille messaged me privately saying, "This makes way more sense now." Over the next week, the post filtered into community groups and friend circles I didn't even realize we overlapped with. I kept my notifications off, but every time I checked, there were more comments and more people saying they were glad someone finally exposed what actually happened. Then came something I didn't expect. People who knew Sienna chimed in. One person wrote, "She did this to her second ex-husband. Same structure, different excuses." Another added, "She calls these tests filters. She bragged about them." Someone else said, "She used to tell women to simulate absence to test loyalty." It was like a floodlight finally hit the pattern. Camille went private across all her accounts that afternoon. Posts disappeared, stories vanished, her carefully curated online persona shut down almost instantly. A few hours later, I received a short message from her number. One of the real ones, not a burner. "I can't believe you'd humiliate me like this. You didn't have to do that." I didn't reply. 2 days after the post, Camille's parents reached out separately. Her mom called me first. She didn't sound angry, just overwhelmed. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I had no idea it was that structured. I thought she simply panicked. I am embarrassed she treated you that way." She asked how I was doing, told me I didn't deserve any of it, and thanked me for staying respectful in my post. Her dad emailed later. He wasn't emotional, more like a disappointed manager. "I raised her better than this. I'm ashamed she allowed her friends to run her relationship like a classroom experiment. I respect how you handled everything." Hearing them acknowledge the truth closed a door I didn't realize was still open. Over the next few weeks, while Camille was scrambling offline, things got worse in her professional world. Her job relied heavily on public perception. Brand partnerships don't exactly thrive when the person behind them looks unreliable. A few clients in our shared orbit reached out to her company, asking whether the viral post involved their representative. A few projects she was assigned to were quietly moved to other team members. She wasn't fired, but over the next few weeks she was pulled off a few major accounts. Work allies stopped interacting publicly with her. Reputation damage is slow, but it's steady. Meanwhile, the coven cracked from the inside. Tess's boyfriend recognized the pattern and ended things, and she cut Sienna off. Marla's husband re-examined the stunts and left. Rory went public and dragged Sienna for treating relationships like experiments. Sienna tried defending herself with a long post about tests, then deleted it, and a few days later, her entire profile. The coven was finished. Camille, without her group backing her up, was suddenly alone. The same friends who urged her to leave me now acted like they barely knew her. She tried posting a few quotes about personal growth, but nobody interacted. She logged off entirely not long after. 4 days after everything went quiet, I got an email. Her first message that wasn't frantic or angry. It was long, calmer than anything she'd sent before. She wrote, "I don't expect you back. I understand why you're done. I just need you to know I finally see it. I see how much I let people influence me. I see how much I hurt you trying to protect myself from something that wasn't even real. I'm sorry." I read it twice, and then I closed it. I didn't respond. A few months after everything went public and the dust finally settled, my life felt strangely quiet in a good way. I rebuilt my routines, stuck with my training plan, and focused on work. I wasn't rushing into anything. I didn't want to repeat patterns or get pulled into drama again. I met Maya at a tech security conference in Bellevue. She was working at a healthcare analytics company, managing risk assessments. We ended up sitting next to each other during a workshop, both taking notes way more seriously than everyone else. During a break, we talked about hiking spots around Seattle, then realized we'd both done the same trail the previous weekend. Different days, same section. She had an easy, grounded way of talking. No performance, no hidden agenda, just straightforward conversation. We swapped contact info at the end of the day. Nothing flirty, nothing charged, just two people who like talking. Over the next few weeks, we grabbed coffee a couple of times before work. Eventually, we went on an actual hike together. It was calm, simple, no games. I told her early on that I had gotten out of a broken engagement. I gave the short version, no dramatic details, just that the split involved manipulation, and that I wasn't looking for anything rushed. She nodded and said, "Thanks for telling me. We can go slow." She didn't pry. She didn't turn it into a therapy session. She just respected the boundary. That alone made me feel how different things could be. Over the next 2 months, we eased into a relationship. Not in a flashy way, more like adding routines that felt natural. She'd join me for a Sunday walk sometimes. I'd go with her to a weekend volunteering event where a group built outdoor accessibility ramps. She liked plans but didn't need everything curated. She didn't compare us to other couples. She didn't use tests or pressure. She didn't need conflict to feel valued. It was normal in the best way. A quiet steadiness I didn't realize I'd been missing. But Camille eventually found out. I'm not sure who told her. Maybe someone from work. Maybe she saw something online even though my posts were minimal. Either way, one morning I opened my inbox and saw 3 messages from burner accounts. The same writing style. The same emotional swings. First one, so you're dating already? After everything I tried to fix? Second, she doesn't know who you really are. Third, the longest, if you marry her, you'll regret it. Sienna says people don't change. That name again. Even after the group collapsed, Camille was still quoting Sienna like she was some authority. I didn't reply to any of it. I didn't block the accounts right away either. I wanted the trail documented. After saving screenshots, I blocked all 3. For a while, that was the end of it. Then came the last ambush, the one I remember clearly because of how out of place it felt. A mutual friend of ours was getting married. He invited both me and Maya. He also invited Camille because he'd known her before me. I considered skipping, but Maya said, "If you're comfortable going, I'm fine going." So we went. The ceremony was smooth. The venue was quiet. And for the first hour, everything was normal. Maya talked with a few people. I caught up with some coworkers. I thought maybe Camille would avoid us or keep things civil. But she approached while we were standing near the outdoor heaters. She looked tired, hair slightly unkempt, makeup smudged at the corners like she rushed to put it on. She stopped a few feet away and said, "Noah, can we talk? Alone?" Maya stepped closer to me, not possessive, just supportive, and said, "If you want, I can give you space." I told her she didn't need to move. I looked at Camille and said, "What do you need?" Camille's eyes flicked toward Maya, then back to me. "You really replaced me," she said, voice shaking. "Just like that?" "This isn't the place," I said. "Let's not do this here." She ignored it and stepped closer. "You weren't supposed to move on. Not like this. I was trying to fix things. And you," she gestured at Maya. "You don't even know what he's done." Maya stayed calm. "I don't think this is the right moment for this conversation." That made Camille snap. She raised her voice. "You don't get to talk to me. You don't even know the history. He left me when I was hurting. He made me look insane. People around us started turning. Someone near the bar pulled out their phone and started recording. Camille noticed and spun toward them. "Stop recording me, seriously!" The person didn't stop. They weren't even trying to hide it. Camille's voice cracked into yelling. She started cursing. At me, at Maya, at the guy filming. She stumbled into a table, knocking over plates. A few guests gasped. Someone called for venue staff. Per the venue's event policy, security came over within a minute. They tried calming her down, but she kept yelling that nobody understood, that everyone was against her, that I had poisoned her life. Finally, they guided her out through a side door. She struggled for a second, then let them pull her outside. The recording spread fast. Not viral, but enough that people in our circle saw it. It wasn't funny, it wasn't satisfying. It was just sad. After she was gone, Maya squeezed my hand and said, "I'm sorry she's going through something like that. Not jealous, not angry, just empathetic." Another reminder of how different my life had become. We stayed for the rest of the reception, talking and laughing with friends. The chaos didn't follow us. It stayed outside with Camille and whatever she was still holding on to. When the night ended and we walked to the car, I felt an odd combination of closure and calm. Not triumph, not revenge, just clarity. Camille had built her idea of love around chasing, around proving, around dramatic tests. She thought the measure of commitment was how broken someone became when pushed. I learned something different. Love isn't about pressure or desperation. It's about trust, about someone choosing you without needing to tear you apart first. I didn't pick revenge. I picked peace.